Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Mina Kolo, an Amazon guru that has built a multi-six-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with my INTJ-A co-host, Mina Kolo. Hey, Mina.
Hey, Jacqueline.
All right, so you guys might be saying, like, what has happened to Jacqueline and what are the letters she's saying?
I think most people will know.
I hope so. So I am an ESFP-T, and Mina is an INTJ-A, and we're talking about our personalities for Myers-Briggs or 16 personalities test, right?
Yes.
And we are thrilled to have a special guest with you guys today to dig into that a bit more. We have Brit Kolo, the creator of Marketing Personalities. Welcome, Brit.
Hey, so glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. So we have recently become huge fans of Brit and what she has done with her business. So Brit, please tell our listeners a little bit about Marketing Personalities.
Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so I'm Brit. I created this thing at marketingpersonalities.com, and it's basically this framework that matches you as an entrepreneur with your best marketing strategy based on your Myers-Briggs personality type. And the idea behind this is that if we can, instead of fitting ourselves into the marketing strategies that other people present to us, that we see other people doing and maybe succeeding at, instead of fitting ourselves into that, we use our personality type to know what marketing strategy will work best for us and fit our marketing strategy to us. And the benefit here is that if we can feel good when we show up to market our businesses, our audiences will feel good. They're going to pick up on that feel good energy that we're bringing to the table and trust us faster and therefore buy from us. If we're showing up in a way that is not aligned with our personality type and makes us feel fake and salesy, well, that fake and salesy energy is going to be picked up on by our audience and they're not going to trust us, right? So we want to feel good. When we feel good, our audience feels good. And a way in which I suggest figuring out what marketing strategy is going to feel good is paying attention to your personality type. So that's what it's all about.
So I love this because, first of all, I'm obsessed with personality tests now, just after taking this. It's like a little bit of getting your palm read and then getting the validation of, hey, it's okay if you don't want to do this, because you're just kind of aligning what feels good and leaning into your strengths with what suits your personality. Brit, would you mind sharing your personality letters?
Yeah, I'm an ENFJ-A. Which, I mean, if you wanted, your own personality types and what that means for your marketing. If you're curious, an ENFJ is really great at asking questions and guiding either their client or their audience member to finding the right answer for themselves. And so usually ENFJs can feel great behind a mic, like we're doing right now, within conversation with either one or two people, or even within conversation with a large audience. So I love speaking. I love podcasting. I love expressing verbally what's going on and having conversations about it. And through those conversations, guiding someone to finding their own answers, which is very much of how I market my business.
Let's go through the letters.
I'll run through all of them here
Okay, perfect.
real quick here. So your first letter is either an I or an E. I stands for introverted. E stands for extroverted. There's lots of misconceptions around these two letters. It does not mean that if you're introverted, you hate people, and if you're extroverted, you love people. That's not what this means. It
But
also
kinda.
doesn't mean that. Well, sometimes that's true, but it also doesn't mean that introverts are quiet and extroverts are loud. That's another misconception. What this means is between the I and the E, it indicates where you prefer to receive energy. So an introvert prefers to receive energy while alone or with just like maybe one other person max. And an extrovert prefers to receive energy around a bunch of people. That doesn't necessarily mean that the extrovert is speaking with those people or even interacting with those people. It's really just, are you around other people or are you not around other people? And do you prefer to receive energy in either of those situations? The second letter is either an N or an S. N stands for intuitive. S stands for observant. Intuitive, and this aspect really indicates where you are receiving information, where you prefer to receive information from. So if you have an N, like Mina and I do, we like to receive internal information. We're picking up more on internal cues than external cues. And then on the other side of the coin, if you have an S, that stands for observant, and that means that you're paying more attention to external cues in your environment. So then the third letter is where you're making your decisions from. That's going to be either a T or an F. T stands for thinking and F stands for feeling. If you have a T, you tend to prefer to make your decisions from things that you can think about, like logic. And then if you're an F, like Jacqueline and I are, we tend to make our decisions from feeling. Not always can see that in a spreadsheet like our thinkers can, but we tend to make our decisions from feeling rather than thinking. And as I go through these, we've got one more letter, but I have to stop and say, it's not that if you are one of these letters, it doesn't mean that you're never the other letter. It's a sliding scale and it's a preference. So it's not like a rule. It's not a set, like this is always how I am. It's a sliding scale, and it's all about what you tend to prefer when you are your most natural self. Can you shapeshift? Yeah, you can. But that's not going to, if you're shapeshifting or kind of being a chameleon and changing your personality type for the environment that you're in, you can do that. We are pretty powerful human beings. We can figure out how to do that. I'd rather you not, especially when it comes to building this business that you care about and showing up in your marketing. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the last letter in the core 4 letters is either a J or a P. J stands for judging and P stands for perceiving. J, we want to be really careful. I said judging, but I did not mean judgmental. If you're a J, like Mina and I both are, it doesn't mean that we're judgmental. It means that we're discerning. We often see a more black and white picture than a P, a perceiver. And the perceiver sees a lot more gray than a J does, just normally as they look at different situations. And so therefore, because the J's can see more of a black and white and see things in this like A or B, 1 or 2 option, they often make decisions a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. While a P who sees a lot of gray in situations might take a little bit longer to make their decisions. And because of that, they tend to be a bit more open to options and making different decisions. So those are the 4 core letters, and that's just kind of the quick rundown of what those all mean.
What about the dash A and T?
Yeah, so that final letter, I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I can definitely speak into it. This letter really underpins all the other letters. And the A stands for assertive and the T stands for turbulent. If you are an A, what that means is you tend to be a bit more self-assured and a little less open to switching. So you're kind of like set. You're more assertive, more self-assured, and some people might say more stubborn. That all these words hold a certain connotation for different people. Keep your mind open about this. Try not to make too many judgments about yourself or other people based on your letters. But that's what assertive means. And then T stands for turbulent, and the turbulent individual tends to flip flop. They just tend to flip flop between their preferences a little bit more than the assertive. They, again, stay a little bit more open. They're not as set in their ways, and they can be more easily persuaded, basically, to go one way or the other. And that final letter kind of underpins the rest of the letters, showing you how pliable you really are in those letters. So I know, Mina, you're an A, I'm an A. And so when I say I'm an ENFJ, and Mina, when you say you're an INTJ, we're pretty sure about that. Like, we're like, no, like, for reals, this is me. And then on the flip side, Jacqueline is an ESFP T. And so in that, different aspects of her personality type, she might say, well, yeah, most of the time, but I could flip. I got this like ability to flip around a little bit more so than the A. And I see, you guys can't see us in this podcast, but I see both of you nodding. Like, yeah, that's true. So
it's like a palm reader. I'm not kidding, guys.
I like to say that Jacqueline is just much more patient than I am. She really is. Like, as far as like, if there's something that I really want to do, she'll pretty much accommodate. I just have to hold out for longer than her.
No, I think, and it's the gray, right? So I can see the between. So I can see how you're A or B, and I can see the between. So it's sort of like, okay, I could go with either. Like, I am able to be in either if you basically give me the information.
Yeah.
So this is something that's really cool about Mina and I, which is crazy nuts too, is that we are the exact opposite. We do not share a single letter.
Not even one letter. We make one whole person that's functioning out there in the world and could kill it.
So just to kind of go over that with you all, so you guys can, since you know us, you know our personalities from listening to the show, to sort of go over it. So we'll just go back to me. So I'm an ESFP. So just to go over what Brit was saying, E, I'm an extrovert, which means I get my energy from being around people, which is interesting because what you said, Brit, which I didn't realize, is like, it's not necessarily that I have to be interacting with people. It's just that I am around people, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I go to New York City and Mina laughs at me because she's like, there's no way I could live on a farm, which I told her this morning. I was like, my dream.
Yeah. She decided she would love a farm. I was like, you would never last.
You don't even know me. But when I show up, like when I get off the train and I'm in the city, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much possibility. And that is like, I'm around all these people. I don't need to talk to them, but I do all of a sudden feel this like zing of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting that I don't have to actually interact with them. It's just being around. I also get anxiety sometimes I need to leave. So it's not that I always need it, right? Versus you, Mina, sometimes you're like, I just need to go lay down and think.
Yeah. I have to schedule in alone time because it's too much for me sometimes. I do get that. When I used to have to work on annual reports, for instance, I used to need to call upon my creativity, and I would do that by either going to like Barnes and Noble or going to a place where I knew I could pull energy from other people. And sometimes like I would be working at home and I would did you know there's webcams all over the world that you can like watch people at cafes and stuff. So you hear all the buzz and everything, but you're in your house. So it's like you're getting the buzz of what's going on. You're just, the chatter in the background. And it kind of helped with my energy because I have I don't want to actually go to those people, but but I'm able to like get some of the energy too.
And I think it's interesting what Britt said about it could be like maybe with one other person, because you and I don't think you tip. Sometimes you have to lay down after talking to me.
Yeah. Hello. Somebody falls asleep mid talk sometimes, and it's not me
when we're together. But that's because we're usually like powering through an event too. But that you get your energy from, you could be one other person, which I think is sort of how you work.
Britt, did you say you were E?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I wouldn't have picked up E from you. I would have said I.
Well, I will say that most of us are somewhere right there in the middle between I and E. So for sure, there's a listener. There are probably several listeners like, but I really feel like I'm in the middle, and there's this new word that people have been using, ambivert, to explain really most of the population is somewhere in the middle, and we can feel like we can resonate with both of these types. And I definitely feel like I'm somewhere in the middle there. I think as I've built my own confidence in myself over the past few years, I've recognized that my introverted self comes out when I'm feeling especially not confident. But when I'm in the groove and when I'm feeling good about myself, I am truly an extrovert. I really love to be around others. I don't necessarily love to be in conversation with others, but I do love to just like out and about. That's not really me. I'm not the extrovert that's out and about like creating conversation with everybody she meets. No way. No way. I like to pick and choose who I have conversations with. But I do love to be around people and feeding off of that energy. At the same time, and I hear this from a lot of extroverts, at the same time, there are still moments where I need to be by myself to recharge. And that's a human trait. Like that is all of us, whether you're an extrovert or introvert. This is all mostly about preference. It's not an always, it's not a rule. It's just a tendency toward a preference. And that's where I land on that.
I like that human trait to recharge, because it is something that sometimes I just really need to be by myself. And I'm like, wait, but I'm an extrovert. So that's something we're learning. So, all right. So jumping into this part, we were all together where we had met in San Diego, and we had our reports in front of us. And I remember going, this is that flip-flop, the turbulent, right? I'm like, am I really an ESFP? And I like pulled someone else's report and looked at it that was like one letter off. And I was like, yeah, no, not that person. And I switched another letter, somebody else with a letter somewhere else. Like, yeah, no, that's not me either. So this was truly, truly perfect. So I'm glad that I got to be around other people to sort of see. So let's jump into what these marketing personality reports are. We receive you sign up on your site, right? And you download one, and then it tells you basically who you are and what type of marketing strategy would work best for you.
Yeah. So you can go to the site and just find out what your best marketing strategy includes. Like I at least give you that. You can just put your email in. You can see what your best marketing strategy includes based on your Myers-Briggs personality type. Cool. And you can walk away and do whatever you want with that info. And then beyond that, I have this full report that you can download, and that's going to show you not only what your best marketing strategy includes, but also where others like you, other people with your personality type tend to get stuck in this. Like they get their best marketing strategy and then they get stuck here. Each of us have a different place where they get stuck. So I give you that right up front. I'm like, hey, you know what? Now that you know this, most people, because oh man, I have talked to so many people. I've watched this happen time and time again. Most people get stuck on this. I don't want you to get stuck there. Here's a heads up. I give you that heads up. I get you through that. I give you my best advice on how to get through that. Then I give you info on what your worst marketing strategy is, which you're like, wait, why would I need that? Well, it gives you information on what to stay away from and why. It gives you that support that you need to let go of the things that don't feel good and really fully lean into the things that do feel good. I give you an example of what a strategy could look like, a super basic strategy could look like based on your type. I give you a list of book recommendations based on type, other entrepreneurs who are like you, and a few other like tidbits throughout. So yeah, so the full report really goes deeper and gives you some information and some tools to start actually putting this into play. Because it's one thing to know your marketing personality type. It's a whole other thing to say, hey, I'm going to commit to working this into my strategy and seeing how it goes and giving it a solid shot. So that's what that full report really allows you to do.
So I wanted to read off my worst marketing strategy.
Wait, before you do that, let's read off our best one.
Our best one? Okay.
Well, because it's like if you go into that, because then it's like counter. So, because I know
it is right on though. It is right on though, because it says it's worded a specific way. It's out of my comfort zone. So
okay,
we'll get to that.
Let's get to that because I don't want it to. So because it's hilarious, everyone. Just so everyone knows, according to what Mina actually does. So, so I am an entertainer. And which I was like, how am I an entertainer? My husband's the entertainer, but turns out I guess I am, which you're right, Brit, like in terms of when I feel most confident, that's who I am. So when it feels most effortless, that's who I am, but I'm not like that when I'm with my husband in his world. That's not necessarily who I am right away. And so before I met you, before I downloaded this, I created a new strategy for my other company, Designer Consulting Co-op, about doing more video. Because it just was the way that I wanted to work on getting my information out there to people. Because I had actually had a couple videos on YouTube that I had really great response to and thought, there's something there. So what you had told me on my marketing personalities was that my best marketing strategy would include entertaining an audience, whether it be from a stage or through a video. And I was already speaking from stages when I do seminars at trade shows. And then the video was something that I was doing. So this almost just reinforced that for me. So I found that to be really assuring that I was on the right track, that I wasn't worrying about, we'll get to what my worst strategy is. So, Mina, what's your best marketing?
Do you have a secondly or no?
Do I have a what?
A secondly on your best marketing. So there's video and is there another suggestion or no?
Mine was entertaining from a stage or through video.
Okay. Entertaining from a stage. Dead on. So mine is actually really accurate too. So mine is an opportunity to build an automated sales funnel with several metrics to track and leverage, which by the way, I hated this. Just we'll get into this in a little bit. Because of your imaginative, innovative nature, why thank you, your best sales funnel will often look a little bit different than everybody else's. The unique deviations from your norm will be what makes your funnel successful, as it takes into account what others have not yet deduced or thought of. Secondly, showcase your positive results so your audience can see the real life advantages of working with you. Highlighting your deduction process as you present your results can aid in your audience's understanding and appreciation for what you've built. Hello, Mina Kuno Tip, the product boss coaching. And here's the other part that I was like, we'll get to this, because when I first read this at Mastermind Live in San Diego, I was like, no, I hate this thing so much because I'm not analytical and I'm not judgmental. So I obviously got all the letters wrong when I was reading it. But in Brit's analysis, it talks about how across the board, I tend to get considerable amount of pushback from INTJs.
I do. I get the most emails from INTJs being like, no, this isn't true. Because and it's not that it's not true. What I know about INTJs is that you tend to rebel. Like, you don't like to be told what to do. You like to come up with it yourself. And I totally get that. I feel like that too. ENFJs sometimes are like that as well. And so I get these initial reactions of like, nope, hate this. I'm not in. This is not cool. And then there's this like percolation that happens. And if the INTJ is willing to just like kind of be open to it a little bit, then they start realizing, oh, wait a second. There might be something here. So it's so funny that initially you were like, no.
Yeah, I even said that to Jacqueline too. And the funny thing is that this happens on every personality test we take. The first one, I was like, no, I'm a quick start on the Colby. I know I am. I don't need to take the test. Turns out I'm a follow through. The other one was rocket fuel. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally the visionary. I know it for sure, blah, blah, blah. Turns out I'm the integrator. Like, how do I not know any of these things? And I'm so adamant in the beginning. And so,
and then you hear it and you're like, and you, like she said, percolate. And then you're sort of like, yeah, actually, yeah.
So every single test, but this one is so dead on. And did you want to read your worst one, Jacqueline?
Yeah. So the one thing I appreciate from what Brit tells you in this, because again, it really truly is how the personality is. So you kind of give me permission in here to create the strategy, right? My best strategy. And you said in here, remember, this can be easy. Let it be. You don't necessarily need to be ultra organized for this business to be successful. You simply need to get people experiencing the fun, loving energy you have in the best moments. Release the big, detailed strategies and let it be easy. Thank you. Because that's the thing, right? We listen to other podcasts, we take other courses, and it's so detailed, but that's for their personality. And I have been successful for over a decade and knowing that it can be easy, that it doesn't have to be complicated, because my brain actually works best when I tell Mina this all the time. Just give me like what I need to do, make it easy and I'll do it. But if I have to plan out content calendars and all the tiny, tiny, tiny details, that's not how I work, and it's just not going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
So your worst one, what was your worst marketing strategy?
My worst marketing strategy, which is 100% true, will include creating detailed digital sales funnels. You will quickly get bogged down and lose your infectious energy when trying to put the pieces of a digital funnel together. Instead, keep your digital footprint simple. Thank you, Brit, for telling me again, giving me permission that I do not have to do all the things.
Yes. Totally.
You're welcome.
And by the way, this report that you guys get is so nice. It's exactly what I would construct in as far as it's beautiful. It's very organized and it just makes perfect sense. So your worst marketing strategy.
This is Mina's.
Yeah, for me, will include not having one, of course. You must start with strategy to avoid the feeling of wasted time and energy and other resources. Flying by the seat of your pants will most likely not feel good for you. And secondly, here's the funny part, guys. Podcasting, speaking, and other spoken word tactics may be far out of your comfort zone at times, but when you're feeling up to these things, by all means, incorporate them into your strategy. So all the worst was podcasting and speaking, but the reason why I'm comfortable with it is because I have a business partner that pushes me out of my comfort zone. And I think that goes for both of us, whereas I'm not doing this stuff for low labels.
And so that's interesting too, because what this says is that you could do it's not like you could be a podcaster.
Right. It's out of my comfort zone.
But you would have never ever podcasted prior to meeting me. So thank goodness for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it. And that's the thing about having someone who is the opposite of you be your business partner, is that they're showing you how easy things can be, right? That's the flip side of not feeling good. It's sometimes is that, oh, this person is being like, oh, here, you can actually do it. Whereas like when you're by yourself, there's a little bit of, oh, I don't know if I can do it. And it feels uncomfortable. And so a lot of the things that Brit points out in these things, she's dead on for low labels. And it's actually dead on for, the product boss too. It's just obviously it's fit for me, but it just goes to show you like what's in my comfort zone and what's not.
And as partners, what's interesting is because, again, we are the exact opposite, right? Mina likes structure and I am like, oh, easy, go with the flow. So that's, I think, as a partnership, we have to find the middle ground and the flexibility, right? So it probably works because I can be in the gray area, right? And you can be pulled into stuff a little bit. And so I think it works really well because we cover a lot of bases, the two of us. And then we're also learning from each other on how to find how I can be more structured and follow like all the boards, and then how you can kind of be pushed into these spaces of like speaking in front of people and podcasting and all that.
So Britt, tell us a little bit about more of the gut reaction you're getting initially from people. I know the INTJs are the bit of the rebels, but what about the other people? Like what kinds of reactions do you get from people?
Oh, I love this question. So initially most people are like, holy smokes, how do you know me? And I just like, it's like, how did you know this? Do you have like a camera in my home office? Like what's going on here? So there's initial resonance. And then, and this is really what I talk about. I mean, yes, I talk about marketing personalities and your best marketing strategy and all this. And then what comes after that is this kind of dip in energy of where people they know their marketing personality type. It resonated with them. They can see it. And then they kind of dip down into, but I just do that so naturally. Is that really going to work? Like, is that going to be enough? And so what I find myself talking about a lot is okay, now that you know this and it resonated, I need you to get back to a place where you believe that you are enough to make this business grow, because you are. And the fact that this is resonating so true to you and is so aligned with who you are, and it feels so easy, that's a really good sign. Don't allow that it being easy to deter you, because there's this weird thing that I think we can all agree going on in our society is that, unless it's hard, it's not really worth it. Unless it's like really hard to do, like, why would I do it? Because then I don't deserve the stuff that comes after the hard work. But I got to flip that on its head. And I talk about this a lot. It's like, no, yeah, we're going to come up to really hard things in business. And that's fine. Our marketing strategy, though, doesn't have to be so hard and so soul sucking and feeling so fake and salesy. Because again, at the end of the day, if you're showing up in a way that feels fake and salesy to you, that's going to repel people. They're not going to love that. You're not going to love it. They're not going to love it. But if you can show up in a way that feels good, your audience is going to feel good as well. And so it's an interesting conversation that starts with, yes, like, how did you know this about me? This totally resonates. Then I got to work you kind of through that dip of, yes, this is enough. Trust me, commit to this, let go of the things that were never meant for you, and really lean into this stuff that I'm telling you about yourself. And then from there, it's just fun. I mean, when you start to own yourself and you believe that you are enough because you are, then it's just play. I mean, it's just so much fun to watch that happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jacqueline and I, we have a partnership for the Product Boss, but just imagine she has a super successful business in DCC, operating exactly as she does as her personality. I'm the INTJ. I have a successful business, I would like to say super successful business with low labels, and that was just by herself. And then coming together, we have a gonna be super successful, already on its way for the Products Boss. So I feel like no matter what, you are enough. And I think that's something that's so important for our listeners to hear, is that it can be any sort of combination, but at the end of the day, you are successful, and you can be successful, and it can be easy, and you are enough.
Yeah. So independently, we've been able to operate and we get this question a lot in our masterminds. So our masterminds, people are like, I need to be on Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram, and right? And they're saying all the places to be that they think they need to show up on social media, and whether they need to be doing a blog and starting a YouTube channel. Because when you listen to experts saying you need this for your business, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily resonate with them, or it doesn't even resonate with the product that they're creating. And so a lot of our people that work with us tell us that, they are just glad that they got permission to pick one thing to focus on. And we even say that sometimes when you're starting your business on the platforms that you're choosing to sell on, like that you can't focus on all of them. So let's pick a couple that are going to be what we grow initially. So speaking to product businesses, again, some of the pushback sometimes is like, everyone's talking about being on Instagram and doing Instagram stories, and I just don't want to be the face of my brand. Like, what do I do? So how would you say that product companies, brands can sort of use this marketing personalities report and start to integrate that into their businesses?
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. And it's a common problem regardless of the business model, really. It's whether you sell physical products, digital products, or you sell client services. There are so many options, and we're all so hyper connected. We're seeing other people doing all the things and talking about all the other marketing options. So it's so easy to get sucked into this thing over here and then that thing over there. And before you know it, you haven't mastered anything and none of it's working. And that's a sinking ship. I mean, really, if nothing's working, you're on a sinking ship. And I want to, man, it's so sad for me to be in those conversations with people, group conversations, when I see that happening. Oh, I just want to help her, so so I see it. It's so common. So my best advice for the product business, seeing all these options and specifically knowing that they don't necessarily want to be the face of their brand. They want their product to really speak for itself and that to be the showcase and what the spotlight is on. I hear you. At the same time, I'm sure that there are listeners right now who have that product business and they're like, oh, I don't mind being the face of the brand. Like I see that. I see that working for me. I don't mind it. I kind of dig it. Hey, that's cool. Like that, you keep doing that. For those of you who have the product business and don't want to be the face of the brand, that's okay. You have nothing wrong with you. Please listen to me and hear me out and believe me when I say there's nothing wrong with this and nothing wrong with you if you don't want to be the face of your brand. I think right now, especially with Instagram, we're inundated with so many personal brands and it's really easy to believe the lie that that's the only way to make it work. And it's just not true. I mean, if you start really paying attention, you will find so many examples of product-based businesses who the product, the brand, you have no idea who founded it, and that's okay. Like you could do it either way. What I encourage you to do is first find out what your marketing personality type is, and I'll venture far enough to say it's probably going to reflect back on you that, yeah, being the face of your brand doesn't really feel great to you. And then it's going to give you more information about what will feel great. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to this for everybody. That's enough. That's totally enough. I wish I had some like off the top of my head examples of these product businesses who you don't know who the founder is. They don't have a face of the brand. Their product is truly the showstopper and what the spotlight's on. But remember, you don't have to be the face of the brand for this to work.
I think there's tons of examples. Like, let's say the wooden watches, right? They blew up on Instagram. There's no face to those. They've made millions on Instagram. I think it's like when we birth something, right? We birth this idea of what our product's going to be look like. We also have an idea of what our children are going to be like. And turns out they're not exact replicas of what we think they're going to be and what we are. They become their own personality. And that's the way with your brand too. I feel like, they get their own legs, their own personality, their own way of talking, their own favorite colors, their own things that kind of make their way to the surface as you're working through it, because there'll be pieces of you, there'll be pieces of the end customer, there'll be pieces of, things that shift and evolve because of people working on different projects. So I think it becomes a personality of its own.
Since we talked about the two, we don't discuss what personalities they are, but let's just say the way that we work our best marketing personalities. I know there's another marketing personality that does well in groups, like having or inviting people, being the hostess, right?
Yeah.
What are a couple other just sort of other types of marketing type strategies that are within these reports?
Yeah, I'll give you some like differences because there are 16 different types. And yeah, we really have camped out on just 2 of those 16. Got a little peek into ENFJ, but there are 16 different types. So lots of different things going on here. So just an example, an ENFP is really great at hosting people. Like you said, they're really great at bringing people together and being the host and the mentor. So creating a safe space to bring people together and then creating really great conversation. I see ENFPs being great workshop hosts, whether virtual or in person, and really dinner hosts. Like they're like matriarchs. If you think of the matriarch of the family, you go to her house for Christmas dinner, and that's the ENFP. Contrast to INFJ. Lots of INFJs in the online space, I think, and INFJs are really great at creating long form content that indoctrinates someone into how they do business and what they sell. And that content can look like written content, it can look like video, it can look like audio, like a podcast. That's really up to the specific INFJ, but it's all in the long indoctrination effect that the INFJ really thrives in. Contrast that to an ENTJ. ENTJs are so great at giving us exactly how to get something done. They're going to get on video or get on a stage and say, hey, 1, 2, 3, follow these steps, you'll get it done. Which is awesome. A lot of us need that. So there's just like 3 other examples. Again, there's so many others.
But I just wanted to,
we're also different, which is so fun.
Yeah, I wanted to bring those up because I just wanted to give some product examples, right? So depending on what you are, so for me, video or getting in front of people. So it could be that I do operate well at trade shows because I'm able to stand up and kind of speak from a quote unquote stage within this booth and teach people about what I do, or that I could do a video. So if I made a product and I could, create YouTube content of stories on basically my own QVC HSN, right? Like I could go through it. Mina, yours was it funnels? What was yours?
Yeah, funnels.
So she has a product. She has an excellent product and she knows exactly how to retarget people who she sells to on Amazon, people who come to her site. She has worked out the maps, guys. It is crazy mind blowing on how to basically keep in contact with the people. And then let's talk about the hostess, which is 1 letter off for me, right? And that was actually one of the reports I had read, which is why I knew more about it. I am not naturally the bringer together of people, like as a hostess, like you meet you, and that's not me. So that 1 letter was a big deal. But if that was the case, perhaps you have parties at your house, right? Like you have those, I call them like the Tupperware parties, where you have people come over, you host an event, you teach them about the product, you entertain, or you set those up at other friends' houses, like during the holidays. So that's something that would be ideal. And then what was another one you had mentioned a strategy for?
The INFJ, and I have a friend who has a product business who's an INFJ. And originally when I told her that her best marketing strategy would include long form content, she was like, that's not going to work. And it took us a little while. But she sells skincare, and she has created, because she's a great writer, she's created lots of content around how to use this skincare really well. And she's been able to leverage that content in all of her conversations with her customers, her current customers, her past customers. And now over time, it's built a really great SEO effect. And so people are finding her content, reading about how beneficial it is to their specific need, their specific skincare need, and then they're buying her stuff off of her website. So it's all workable, and it's all enough.
Yeah. And I think one of the examples you gave was like the step-by-step of something, right? Where that reminds me of at the state fair, like I remember the My Pillow guy, was there and he's like, this is how you do it. And this is how you fluff it. So like being able to take somebody step by step through using the product. So for example, if I had a product and I have a YouTube channel or I'm doing video because that's what I thrive in, then it would be, I do the video. And then if I want to do long form content, that is not something that is ideal for me. But let's say I need a blog for SEO, then I take my video, send it to a copywriter and have them do the blog. So knowing and giving myself permission not to have to write the blog myself, but that I get to do what feels best to me. And then I get to pass that on to somebody else, knowing like that just it's not in line specifically with what I could do it, but it's not free flowing for me. And then I could still get that content, right?
And then also long form versus short form too. Long form being a long form video, YouTube, short form being Insta stories are very simple compared to a YouTube video. Mm-hmm. So really thinking about that.
So I guess what I really want all of you to hear, and actually probably I think the majority of our masterminders have now taken this and they've got the full report for the marketing personality, and we're able to use that with them in terms of talking about what they can do and how they can do it. And it gives them that permission to to do what fits them best, especially in your sort of startup first year, second year phase, right? You're going to grow your business, but this is that initial step. So in our show notes, we have a link for you guys to just hop right over and get that free report. And then if you opt in to want to download the full report, that is there for you as well. And I think, and Mina and I don't often promote things, but this is something that we have literally lived by for the last 4 months, right?
Yeah, it's been so much fun. What Britt was talking about earlier, it does indeed just become fun.
We usually wrap our podcast with some fun questions. So it's a rapid fire. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. So what is your coffee order?
Oh, I get a dark roast with a half a pump of mocha with room so I can put just a little bit of half and half in there.
I love it. What is the favorite thing on your desk?
Favorite thing on my desk is, I'm looking around right now, my mic. I love speaking into a microphone. I love speaking and having conversations with people, and I love my mic. So there you go.
Finish the sentence. When I pick up my phone, I
go to Instagram.
And you wish you knew how to?
Oh, I wish I knew how to speak in sign language. Is that the weirdest answer ever? That is what comes up for me. I wish I knew how to do sign language. Yeah.
That is kind of amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I love that.
What was the last show you binge watched?
Oh, The Umbrella Academy.
Was that good?
It was really good. Creeped me out at the end. It got real dark and creepy, and that is not my jam. But I got through it. And yes, I actually stayed up past 9 p.m. to watch this show, which if I do that ever, I'm into it. So yeah, I did really enjoy it.
And then what should the title in your email signature actually say?
You know what it should say? It should say individualist. This is a theme that comes up all the time. I literally, all of we're talking about personality, right? So all the assessments, my astrological, everything, all of it goes to, I believe in individual solutions for everybody, which is funny because marketing personalities kind of does that for people, right? So I'm definitely an individualist. I want people to show up in their individual nature. So yeah, that should be part of my signature. I might need to go do that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Do you have an alter ego or stage persona?
Yeah, she's definitely in there. And you know what? Just because I've gone on this journey myself of believing in my enoughness and owning who I really am, I'm recognizing that over time, she's just me. Like there's this true natural me that used to be my alter ego, I think, but I'm becoming her. Just, she's so confident and so self-assured. She doesn't have a name. I mean, she's my name. She's Brit.
Yeah.
But I've seen that morph over time, and I'm really proud to say that because it wasn't always the case.
That's nice to give those words because I think it's true. And I think they always say it depending, like, as especially women, as you get older, you know, like the way that we settle into ourselves. And I would probably say the same. It was that the insecurities that you have in your teens and your 20s and 30s. And then when you finally start to get assured in what you're doing and further in your career, and then it's just sort of like, oh yeah, this is who I was always meant to be. And it took that journey to get there.
Definitely.
And I'll ask you the last couple questions. What is your most used and favorite emoji?
Oh, it's probably a tie between, I think they call it the hug emoji, but it's the one where the hands are out in front of you, just like, so happy, so here, like, I want to give you a hug.
Oh, the happy hands. That's what I call the happy hands.
And the star eyes. I use the star eyes all the time.
Cute.
Yeah. I feel like this is a personality thing too. You'll have to incorporate emojis. This is your favorite emojis in your marketing report.
Oh my gosh, I should totally do that. Oh, writing that down.
And then last question, Britt. We very much believe that entrepreneur years are like dog years. You learn a lot very quickly. What would you say to baby Britt if you could go back and give her some advice now that you're further along in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yes, and I totally agree. These are like dog years. what I want to tell her is that growth and success doesn't always show up on a spreadsheet right away. Because in the beginning, I thought that I could track how well I was doing with numbers. Because I was in corporate for years, and that's how I thought that it worked. And I know now, especially after 2018 rocked me. But it was one of those years where I couldn't really look back and say, and point to a cell on a spreadsheet and be like, yeah, I killed it. But I could look at the growth that I went through personally as a human. And I can tell you right now, that kind of growth is so valuable as an entrepreneur. If we're talking about, how quickly our lives change, how quickly our businesses change, and how much happens in a year for an entrepreneur as opposed to as a year for anybody else in the world, that personal growth cannot be discounted. I actually think it might be more powerful than the stuff that you can track on a spreadsheet. Hey, I'm all about tracking on spreadsheets. I do that too. But also give yourself credit for the stuff that you can't track on a spreadsheet, because it's also super valuable, and it's going to lead to growth and success you can't even possibly imagine down the road.
I love that so much.
So, Brit, tell our listeners how they can get in contact with you and reach you.
Yeah. So the main thing that all the listeners need to do right now is go to that link that you've put in the show notes and go find their marketing personality type. If you want to get in touch with me personally, you can come find me on Instagram at marketing personalities. That's where I'm spending most of I just told you that. That's where I'm spending most of my time. That's where my best conversations happen. So that's where you can come hang out with me at marketing personalities.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all of this incredible information. I think you guys are going to really enjoy your reports.
Thank you, Brit.
Thanks so much for having me.
This episode is over, but it doesn't have to end. Head over to our Facebook group, search for the Product Boss Biz Community, or the link is also in the show notes. Come connect with other product bosses just like you. We'll see you in there.
If you love the Product Boss podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, share, rate, and give a review on iTunes. Until next time, Product Bosses, let's make it happen.